This episode of Brutally Human is brought to you by Coke Notes. Use code UNCOVERED at checkout for 10% off your subscription. I was 6 years old on the school playground. One of those metal slides that could double as a George Foreman grill in the Florida sun. This kid slams into me on the way down, snaps my collarbone in two. I start to cry because, duh, pain, fear. I'm 6. Then he looks at me and goes, I didn't even hit you that hard. Why are you crying? Boys don't cry. So I didn't. Not when the teacher asked what was wrong, not when I said nothing, my shoulder just hurts. Not until the next morning when I couldn't lift my arm to get dressed and they found out it was broken in two. That was the day I learned that pain is supposed to be swallowed, not treated, not acknowledged, just buried. Because apparently boys don't cry, even when their bones snap. Fast forward a couple decades and guess what? Most of the men I know are still walking around with broken pieces. Just better at hiding it. Let's talk about toxic masculinity. Let's talk about how be a man really just means die inside slowly while looking tough on the outside. And let's talk about what it actually takes to be a whole man in a world that tells us not to feel. You ready? Because I'm not holding back, and neither should you. You want to know the first time I encountered toxic masculinity? We talked about it already. I was 6. I was on the playground at school. Some kid who I hope now works customer service for Spirit Airlines body checks me on the slide and snaps my collarbone. I start crying because, bone, broken, pain, trauma. And what does he say? I didn't even hit you that hard. Why are you crying? Boys don't cry. So I shut up instantly. The teacher came over, asked what was wrong, and I choked down the pain and muttered nothing. My shoulder just hurts. Didn't find out it was broken in two until the next morning when I was getting ready for school and I couldn't lift my shirt over my head. That's how early it starts. Before boys even know what masculinity is, they're already being told what it isn't, and more importantly, what it better not be. Don't cry. Don't be soft. Don't be a girl. Don't talk about your feelings unless you want to get roasted harder than an overcooked Thanksgiving turkey. And what happens? We stuff it. Deep down. Every time someone tells us to man up, toughen up, shake it off, get over it, we shove it into the same internal closet where the skeletons of our mental health stack up like an episode of Hoarders. And here's the brutal truth. Most men aren't taught to be emotionally resilient. We're taught to be emotionally silent. And silence? That shit is loud. It manifests in anger, in substance abuse, in domestic violence, and self-destruction because when you bottle something up for decades with no outlet, it doesn't just disappear. It detonates. So yeah, maybe the phrase toxic masculinity makes some dudes flinch, but we need to stop pretending it's about attacking men. It's about recognizing the systems, the culture, and the generational trauma that raised us to think showing emotions makes you weak, asking for help makes you soft, and being vulnerable makes you less of a man. It's not about shame, it's about freedom. Because the truth is, masculinity isn't toxic. But the version we were handed, that shit was. You ever watch a grown man sit in his car all alone for 45 minutes in the driveway just to mentally prepare to walk inside and ask for help? Yeah, that was me. And that was a lot of us. Because for years, decades, guys were taught that therapy was for people who were broken, weak, emotional. God forbid you're emotional and a male, might as well wear a tutu and cry at the end of the Notebook, right? But here's the thing. Everyone is fighting a battle you can't see. And men, we've been told to fight ours with duct tape and denial. Got anxiety? Push it down. Depression? Go to the gym. Having an identity crisis? Try starting a podcast. Wait a minute. Harry, what the hell? We weren't taught to sit in our emotions. We were taught to outperform them, to be the provider, the protector, the punchline, whatever the role, it sure as hell didn't include being human. And God help you if you finally do reach out for help, because the first thing society asks is, what took you so long? What took me so long? The shame, the fear of being seen as less than, the years of programming that told me men are either strong or silent, and if you can't be both, you're a failure. Let's talk real for a second. The shit kills people. The suicide rates among men is astronomically higher than women. Not because men are weaker, but because we've made it socially unacceptable for men to be real. Real hurt, real confused, real scared, real tired. But you know what's powerful? A man who says, I'm not okay and I'm not ashamed to admit it. You know what's brave? A man who goes to therapy and learns how to parent himself better than his dad ever did. You know what's strong? Crying, feeling, healing, and then helping the next man know he's allowed to do the same. We don't need less masculinity, we need healthier masculinity. Masculinity that makes space for softness. Masculinity that knows how to listen. Masculinity that hugs and apologizes and learns. Masculinity that isn't afraid to say, hey, I've been there too. Because real strength isn't how much you carry, it's how much you let go. Okay, so let's address the toxic elephant in the room. Mansplaining. Well, actually, yeah, that guy. We all know him. He could mansplain gravity to Isaac Newton and still feel good about himself. But here's the thing. No one wants to say out loud. Sometimes mansplaining isn't a man thinking you're stupid. It's a man doing exactly what society taught him. Speak with authority, know everything, be the leader, the expert, and the fixer. Blame it on the Boy Scout manual, every 90s action hero, and your uncle who won't shut up about how to cook a steak properly. The irony? A lot of the women calling it out are the same ones who were also raised in a culture where men were supposed to take the lead, make plans, fix the damn car, and know why the washing machine sounds like it's crying for help. So when a guy does exactly that, explains something without being asked, suddenly he's the problem. Now look, I'm not saying men aren't sometimes condescending assholes. We've definitely earned our reputation in some rooms. But not every dude who speaks up is trying to put someone down. A lot of us are just trying to play a role we were shoved into before we even understood what gender norms were. And speaking of roles, we got to talk about the toxic masculinity blame game. It's become the go-to phrase to throw at any man the second he's emotional, angry, confused, or, let's be real, breathing with confidence. Oh, that's just toxic masculinity. Okay, Karen, no offense, but are you mad because he raised his voice or because he didn't respond the way you wanted him to? The pendulum swung so hard that now a man with confidence is intimidating. A man with opinions is aggressive, and a man who doesn't express emotions on cue is emotionally unavailable. Somewhere between boys don't cry and men should be vulnerable, we forgot to give guys the tools to navigate the emotional whiplash. And if we're being real honest, some people don't want men to heal, because a healed man won't be easy to manipulate. He'll know his limits. He'll have his boundaries. He'll speak up. And oh no, not a man with boundaries. Let's be real. We're all figuring it out. But tearing each other down for doing what we were taught isn't the answer. So instead of man-shaming men for what society raised them to be, how about we rewrite the script together? And the next time a guy says something obvious, just say, thanks, I already knew that. He'll live or implode. Either way, it's a win. So let's talk about it. The great emotional plot twist of the 21st century. Men became the emotionally intelligent ones, and women, well, a lot of y'all turned into the emotionally unavailable ones. Not all, obviously, but enough that we need to talk about it. You see, back in the day, the stereotype was simple. Men were stone cold, bottled up, cry in the garage types. Women were the emotionally expressive, let's talk about our feelings types. Fast forward to today, and suddenly you've got dudes journaling, going to therapy, knowing their attachment style, and sending voice memos that sound like Brene Brown wrote them. Meanwhile, some of the same women out here preaching emotional maturity are ghosting guys for saying, I miss you too soon. Like, make it make sense.
I want a man who's in touch with his emotions.
Until he is. Then it's,
ugh, he's so clingy. Why does he need constant reassurance? He texts too much. He's giving me the ick.
girl, you said you wanted a healed man, not a robot with abs and a savings account. You don't get to beg for vulnerability, then weaponize it the moment it makes you uncomfortable. Let me say it louder for the people in the back. You don't get it both ways. If a guy is emotionally unavailable, he's toxic. If he's emotionally available, he's too much. If he opens up about trauma, he's trauma dumping. If he stays quiet, he's distant. So which is it? Men are finally doing the work. We're breaking the generational cycles. We're learning to talk about our feelings instead of punching a wall or suppressing it with a bottle of Jack Daniels and 14 hours of Xbox. But what happens when we do all of that work and still get punished for it? We start to question it. We shut down again. We retreat. And then the cycle starts all over again. The reality is, emotional intelligence isn't just for one gender. We all have some unlearning to do. Because if men were taught to repress, women were often taught to distrust emotional vulnerability in men.
He's too sensitive. He's a simp. I need a real man.
Cool. Define real. Because I'm pretty sure a real man can go to therapy and fix your sink. He can cry at a movie and stand up for you in public. He can want connection without being needy. We're not trying to be your therapist, but we're also not trying to be your emotional punching bag because Chad from 2014 never texted you back. Fuck you, Chad. Let's meet in the middle. Let's talk to each other like human beings. Let's stop expecting perfection and start embracing progress. Because at the end of the day, he's not too emotional. You just weren't ready for a man who finally feels. So here's the truth. We're all doing the best that we can with what we were handed. Some of us were handed silence, others were handed shame, but healing means breaking those patterns even when it's messy. If you're a guy listening to this and you're doing the work, keep going, brother. You're not too much. You're just finally becoming human. And to the woman out there, baby, we see you too. You've been handed your own garbage to unlearn. So let's stop keeping score and start actually listening to each other. Because we've all got a little toxic to unlearn. And healing, it's not always gentle, but it is always worth it. This has been another brutally honest episode of Brutally Human, brought to you by Cope Notes. Use code UNCOVERED at checkout to get 10% off your subscription and start rewiring your mental health one text at a time. Oh, and before you dip out, here's this awkward reminder to like, comment, and subscribe. Or don't, but then you'll miss the next emotional slap to the face. And honestly, that sounds like a you problem. Next week on Brutally Human, we're diving into the art of uncomfortable truth-telling. It's how to have difficult conversations without losing your mind or your relationship. Because saying we need to talk shouldn't feel like a threat, but let's be real, it does. So we're gonna learn how to do it better together. Until next time, stay raw, stay honest, and whatever you do, don't be a walking red flag. I'm Kyle Fields, and I'll see you next week.